In this video, I'll be showing you how to make the letter N using a rubber band loom. I'll be working with a rainbow loom, but you can use any brand of loom that has the pins in a straight row. I'm only going to be using one row of pins, so I remove the other two. But if you have a brand of loom that the pins don't come off, that's perfectly fine. You will need 20 rubber bands in order to make the letter N. And for each band I place on, I am going to be doubling it. So in order to do that, I'm just placing it on my hook, twisting and putting it back on so you can see the two bands on my hook. And I'm starting with the arrows facing away from me. And I'm starting on the end pin, and I'm going to put the rubber band to the next pin up. And I'm going to go the length of 5 rubber bands. So this is my second one. They're always getting doubled, and as you place them on, you want to be pushing them down to the bottom of the pin because we're going to be adding another layer on top of this, and we just need to have room to add it. So that was the fourth one. I want to place one more band. And now I want to go back to the start. I still want the arrows to be facing away from me. And this time I'm going to place the length of 12 rubber bands going up the loom. Again, I want all the bands to be doubled, and I'm starting on the end. And the bands are always just going to go one right after the other. And they're just going on top of this first layer that we put on. Some people like to use their fingers to double the bands, but I prefer to use my hook when I'm stretching them out in between the pins. So whatever method you find works best for you, you can certainly use. And we're going the length of 12 rubber bands, which is going to take you all the way to the end of your loom. If you're using a rainbow loom, I'm not sure about the other brands. So here's the last one. And now on this very last pin, I want to put a cap band that I'm going to quadruple. So in order to do that, I'm just placing the band on my hook, twisting, put it back on, twist, put it back on, twist and put it back on. So you can see the 4 rubber bands on your hook. And I'm going to place this right on the top. It's going to be tight. And if you feel like you're struggling to do this because your bands aren't that stretchy, you can just triple that band. And now I want to turn my loom around so the arrows are facing towards me. And from this pin that's closest to me now, I'm going to loop this top layer. So I'm going to place my hook down through the middle. I'm pushing back on the top 4 bands. That's the cap band that we just placed on. Grabbing those bottom 2 bands, I'm going to hold this cap band in place with my thumb and just moving that forward. I'm going to loop the length of 5 rubber bands, so that was my second one. And I have one more here to do. And so now I've gone the length of 5 rubber bands, and I want to take the ones that I looped off of the loom, but I want them to stay connected on this last pin where I ended. So I'm going to place my thumb over top of this pin, and I'm going to put my hook down through the cap band on the end, and I'm going to remove these rubber bands that are looped. And now what I want to do is take these bands and move them out to the right. And what I'm actually going to do is the band that was under here, I now want to be on this pin above. So if you stretch this out, you can see where the loop is in the center of that rubber band. I'm going to, here I'll have to set it down, I'm going to stretch this out, put my hook down through the middle of that loop, and now I'm going to move it up to the pin above. And now these other bands that are looped are just going to hang off to the right hand side. I want them to be up as far as possible. And what that's going to do is just make the N a little bit tighter at the joint. And now I want to loop the bands the rest of the way up, just that top layer. And so I am going down through the end, pushing back on those top 4 bands. I want the bottom 2 to move forward. And some of these pins are pretty full. You're just pushing back on the top bands, getting those bottom 2 and moving them forward. Now on this next pin, you can see that we have this lower layer. We're not doing anything with that. You're just grabbing the top 2. Just going to go all the way to the top. And now I want to remove the bands that I looped, but I want them to stay on all the way to this second pin down from the top. So I'm going to be putting my thumb on that second pin, and I'm going to release the rest of these bands that I just looped. And again, they're going to stay out to the right. That's going to be, you can see the N forming. This is the straight part, and here's the slanted part. And now I am going to go to this pin that is closest to me where the end band is, and I want to put a cap band on this pin. So again, I'm going to quadruple a rubber band and put it right on top. And now I can loop this last layer. It's the first one that we had put on. So I'm going down through the middle, pushing back on the top 4, just getting these bottom 2. I'm just going to work my way up to the top of the loom. Now again, on this pin here, it's pretty many bands. You're only worrying about the bottom 2. And finally, on this last pin, I'm putting my hook down through the middle, pushing out to the side. Should have 1 rubber band left. I'm going to pull this up through and put that loose end back on my hook, so I have the 2 loose ends. And now I can carefully remove this. And now what I want to do is take the band that's closest to the end of my hook, pull it through the other band to make a slip knot. You want to pull that tight. It's going to keep it from falling apart. And then here is the N, and you might have to do a little bit of adjusting to it. You want the 2 ends to be straight, the sides of the letter. And then you want the slanted part to be straight as well. Get them all in a line. And then here is your letter N. And then here is another N that I made using yellow bands. Hopefully everyone found this tutorial easy to follow. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook, post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page, and please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on all of my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram so please feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!